Hello Game Gumshoes fans, Chris here with Game Gumshoes. Today I want to present to you my top 10 list of role-playing games to check out for this holiday season. First on my list is a current game. Every couple years it goes through new ownership. In this case, it is the Star Wars role-playing game system by Fantasy Flight Games. Now, one of the reasons I think it's clever is because, well, they use an interesting new dice system that's not used on any other game. But, you know, it's got a newer feel, real easy, and this particular version of the Star Wars role-playing game system actually, for me, harkens back to the original Star Wars role-playing game system by West End Games. So, Star Wars Fantasy Flight Games. Next is the classic, Dungeons & Dragons. Currently it's made by Wizards of the Coast, which is a subsidiary of Hasbro. And currently they're doing a thing called the Sundering, where they're actually going back and they're re-releasing all the old product. I just recently saw a nifty set where it's a box set. It's got the original books in it. It's a bit pricey, but it comes in a treasure chest, so you really can't beat it. And it is the original books, the old paper white books, not the red box set or anything like that that most of us are probably familiar with. These are the ones that predate those even. So check that out. Next, everybody loves Firefly. It's a big thing right now. There's board games and everything like that. Well, Margaret Weis Productions actually has the rights to the Firefly role-playing game system. You can actually get it online or in stores. Right now it's only modules, but at the beginning of next year you'll have the full-blown rule book to go and purchase. That being said, my next role-playing game system is Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder came out around the time of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, and it was an alternative for people who liked the basic mechanics but didn't want to upgrade to Dungeons & Dragons 4.0. And I can't say I blame them. I mean, after a while you get tired of changing up editions and things like that. Pathfinder has a solid following, and it also has its Pathfinder Society where you can get rewards for playing. So, you know, that's definitely a good one to check out. Next is the Doctor Who Adventures in Space and Time. It's by Cubicle 7. They're a British company, so they have the rights to go in and manufacture the games based on the material there at the BBC. With the Doctor Who Adventures in Space and Time, very simple D6 system, great, easy to play, and the materials they're releasing for it are just phenomenal. I mean, your basic core box set, you know, you get your dice, you get your rule book, you get your character sheets, all that stuff, and they've recently started releasing each of the Doctor having a different source book. You've got source books for unit, you have aliens and creatures, you have a companion source book. I mean, there's just loads of material out there, and there's still more to come because, hey, we're getting ready to have a new Doctor soon. So, check that out. Next, if you like Lord of the Rings and you want a role-playing game system that is close to the source material for the Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, check out The One Ring by Cubicle 7. Again, British, they've got access to the source materials, and the game is phenomenal. And it has a unique dice system as well. It's mostly D6 based, but there's a special D12 that is kind of a D10, but it has two special characters on it. I do have a video review of it, so please check that out, and that'll give you a little bit more information. By the way, I also have a review on the Doctor Who game as well, so you can check that out. Next is a game that's kind of out of print because the licensing was lost, but it's still current enough, and there hasn't been a new edition released yet. So I'm going to promote in this particular instance, Marvel Heroic Role-Playing Game System by Margaret Weis Productions. I know my local gaming group on Sundays has a tendency to switch between Dungeons and Dragons and the Marvel Heroic. They do throw in random games here and there of other stuff that people want to try, but it's one of their top two. We play this every other Sunday kind of thing. So check that out. Speaking of which, next one is DC Universe. I know there's been a lot of DC, Marvel role-playing game systems, but the current one, the current DC anyway, is done by Green Ronin Publishing. They're new, but all their material looks very phenomenal. It's very crisp, clean, definitely worth a look-see. They did a really good job at putting the characters together. Next is Gurps, the generic universal role-playing system by Steve Jackson Games. It's pros and cons. It's one of the two main role-playing game systems that were ever brought out. There was Dungeons and Dragons, and then Steve Jackson came out with Gurps, as far as I'm concerned. Now, Gurps is an interesting way to build a character for any possible scenario you could run across. I mean, they've got source books on witchcraft, on army guys, samurais, ninjas, zombies, vampires. I mean, whatever you want, Gurps has a source book for. They've even got a couple that probably shouldn't have been made due to licensing issues, but, good luck finding those. It's, I think, in its 4th edition now, but definitely worth a look-see. The one downside to it is very detailed. Very detailed. And can get a little time-consuming creating a character because of the checks and balances system in the game. But other than that, if you wanted a role-playing game system that was going to help you lead to maybe writing books or something like that, Gurps is definitely high up there because it asks all the questions that your readers are going to ask you. So definitely check it out. And lastly, I want to cover one that I'm going to use a generic name for it, just because there's so many editions out there that I don't want to pick just one because everybody has a different preference. It's Vampire by White Wolf Publishing. You've got Masquerade, and you've got Bloodlines, and you've got a New World, or something World. Anyhow, I think it's like New World or something like that. But each of them have come in different stages and things like that. It's not just a tabletop game, as would be thought of because it's a role-playing game system. They also have something that's called a LARP, which is live-action role-playing system. Now, out of all the role-playing systems that I've mentioned, Vampire is the only one that I'm aware of that has an actual LARP where people run around dressed as their characters, acting out what their characters would actually do. A lot of the games like Dungeons and Dragons stopped doing that a long time ago because of controversy and what have you. But Vampire has been doing it nice and strong for over 20 years now, so they're definitely tried and true. Feel free to check them out. Go to your local game store, and I'm sure if you talk to them, they will be able to point you in the right direction as to how to play any of these games. My role-playing game list for this year is Star Wars by Fantasy Flight Games, Dungeons and Dragons by Wizards of the Coast, Firefly by Margaret Weis Productions, Pathfinder by Paizo, Doctor Who's Adventures in Space and Time by Cubicle 7, The One Ring by Cubicle 7, Marvel Heroic Role-Playing Game by Margaret Weis Productions, DC Universe by Green Ronin, Gurps by Steve Jackson Games, and Vampire from White Wolf. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.